Hello, viewers. It's Josie. Happy New Year! I hope everyone had a fabulous holiday season. It's now January 1st, 2024, and with that, I decided to do um a vid this video be talking about some of, not all of them, because that'd be too many. I want to highlight some first time uh, first time watches from the second half of 2023. Actually, the fall and winter of 2023. Um, and I'm going to start out talking about a Clear Cut from 1991, directed by Ryszard Bugajski. I don't know how to pronounce. This is based off a book called A Dream Like Mine by M.T. Kelly. So, a lawyer named Peter McGuire is unable to terminate a logging company's land clearing of a Native American reservation. As a result, a Native American man named Arthur, played fantastically by Graham Greene, wreaks vengeance upon those who allow this to take place. He takes one of the logging company execs and the lawyer McGuire into the woods and punishes these men, intending to give them a taste of their own medicine. It's thought provoking, upsetting, and complex. While Arthur's anger is 100% justified, his violent ways of going about teaching these guys a lesson, it is morally questionable, but at the same time, like, there's a part of you that like just can't help but root for Arthur because, it's uh taking, they were taking land away from his people. And I think I think that's what the movie's aiming for. Uh cuz you're not meant to like the guys that he's torturing. Not only does this okay okay more than anything, although they're only present at the beginning and the end, not to give spoilers away, like I said, you want justice for the Native American peoples. And the cinematography of The Forest is beautiful. And not only does this film work because the writing and directing are done in a proper tone for such a subject matter, but it's also the editing that helps maintain that. And the movie's a survival thriller, but it also knows when to slow down for the dramatic human moments. And Graham Greene's performance, as I said, is absolutely incredible. He balances being both scary and sympathetic. Clear Cut is available to watch on Shudder and Amazon Prime. It's definitely worth a watch. Uh, Next up is The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover from 1989, directed by Peter Greenaway. Michael Gambon, rest in peace, because he died in 2023, plays a mobster named Albert Spica, and he takes ownership of a super extravagant French restaurant. He goes there on a nightly basis with his wife Georgina, played wonderfully by the great Dame Helen Mirren. To put it simply, Albert is a big bully. He is incredibly disrespectful to his clientry. Michael Gambon's delivery is equally mean as it is hilarious. Somebody wrote on Letterboxd, "I will never look at Professor Albus Dumbledore in the same way ever again." Georgina can't even stand him. She's having an affair with a regular restaurant patron named Michael, played by Alan Howard. And as one would imagine, Albert seeks cold-blooded revenge when he finds out about his wife's infidelity. I don't want to reveal the specifics, but this movie goes in some crazy directions. This film does an interesting juxtaposing exploration of the beauty and ugliness that comes with the pleasures of the senses. Like uh, in the film, food and sex go pretty much hand in hand, and it's also a fascinating look at power dynamics. And sticking on the contradictions front, the cinematography and production design the restaurant are both fancy and grimy. And as the story gets darker, you bet you the scenery does too. Unfortunately, this is not available to stream anywhere. and you can't even rent it for a few dollars on Amazon. So if you're interested, try to get an interlibrary loan if you can. And notice I'm saying if you're interested, because this movie is definitely not for everybody. Next up is The Devils from 1971, directed by Ken Russell. There are two source materials for this. The first is The Devils of Loudun, a book by Aldous Huxley. The other being a play called The Devils by John Whiting. As far as historical context, it's set in 17th century France when King Louis, which number of King Louis? King Louis XII. King Louis the 13th was in power. Cardinal Richelieu persuaded King Louis that city barriers across France were not a useful idea, given that it would only create opportunity for Protestants to rise up in power and influence. And the story follows a priest named Urbain Grandier, who is basically given governance of the French city of Loudun after the governor has passed. Grandier is quite licentious. He takes on religion and sexuality, are quite off-center, but these sensibilities of Grandier play a key role in popularity, especially amongst a group of nuns. Sister Jean, played by Vanessa Redgrave, who gives a maniacal performance. The abbess, or Mother Superior, is what I meant to say, is pretty much his number one fan, and she's very much sexually infatuated with him. And Granier, who I forgot to mention is played magnificently by Oliver Reed. He's in love with a woman named Madeline Dubrow, played by Gemma Jones, much to the Mother Superior's envy. Sister Jean basically accuses Madeline of being a sacrilegious whore. Not only that, when the abbess is notified by one of the fellow priests that Grenier is promoted as the new confessor, she accuses him of practicing dark magic. At this point, Baron Jean de Labourdemont enters Loudun, assigned to destroy the city, disregarding Oliver Reed's character's demands to not do so. A whole smear campaign is launched against Grenier, highlighting the fiction of him using witchcraft and possessing the nuns. Of course, the intention behind this is to ensure Grenier's downfall, but first things first, this movie is a visual feast. Derek Jarman's production design here is jaw-droppingly incredible. It manages to feel both modern and of the time of the story setting. I also love the costumes. And although our protagonist is not actually practicing witchcraft in the movie, the cinematography and editing style is akin to horror. As one would imagine, The Devils was a controversial film upon release. In fact, given its stark criticism of religious power structures, the film underwent censorship. Beyond its take on religious politics, The Devils was controversial for its explicit content since it touched on the dangers of religion's shunning of female sexuality. Overall, The Devils is a thought-provoking tragedy with a lot of commentary on corruption within power structures. Smear campaigning to knock down people in power is something that has occurred for years and years. And not also religion's marginalization of women and sexuality is also a tale as old as time. And I'm wondering if Yorgos Lanthimos took any inspiration from Ken Russell, because this reminded me a little bit of The Favorite while watching it. And next up is Eve's Bayou from 1997, directed by Cassie Lemons. The movie follows the Batiste family in an affluent Creole community of Louisiana in 1962. Going into this movie, I knew it involved Creole folklore and voodoo, so I watched it a few days before Halloween, to keep with the theme. And what I did not expect is how fitting it actually was for Halloween season. And somebody on Letterboxd described this movie as it's like the Bronte sisters were transported to Louisiana in the early 1960s. And the production design of the Batiste house and community are gothically ethereal. The patriarch Louis is a renowned doctor. He's played by Samuel L. Jackson. He and his wife Roz have 3 children. There's the oldest, Cecily, the middle child and titular character Eve, played by Jurnee Smollett, who gives a fantastic child performance, and the younger brother Poe. Eve's father is a bit of a womanizer. Early in the film, Eve sees her father having sex with a friend of the family, Maddie Moreau, who's like this very vivacious lady. And Eve's relationship with her parents gets tested as she questions her father's faithfulness, as one would imagine. And this too leads to conflict and strain within her parents' marriage. Cecily experiences puberty, and the scene where Cecily gets her first period is actually quite funny. And the bond between Cecily and Eve is depicted beautifully. It feels very real. It doesn't feel overly cutesy or glossy. It's a very protective relationship, with a hint of like teasing. And Eve has a close connection to her Aunt Moselle, played wonderfully by Debbie Morgan. And she's a psychic of the neighborhood with a specialty in hoodoo. Hoodoo, for those of you who do not know, is a form of spirituality designed by Southern African Americans during slavery. Specifically, magical practices, rituals, and folklore combining traditions native to Africa, as well as indigenous ethnobotany. Because of Moselle's gift, the people in town call her the Black Widow. And Moselle acts as a mentor figure to Eve. Moselle introduces Roz to a fortune-telling witch named Elzora, played by Diahann Carroll, who's also fantastic in this. Elzora tells Roz that a resolution to her and Louis's current marital conflict is to look to her children, and she'll feel fulfillment once again in 3 years' time. Something happens with the sister, and Eve goes to Elzora for help. I don't want to reveal any more specifics because I don't want to ruin it. What I will say is, like, the first half of the story is basically like a series of coming of age vignettes with little doses of suspense. And whereas the second half is basically a gothic horror story. I don't know how many of you have read this, but there's a short story collection called The Conjure Woman and Other Tales by Charles Waddell Chestnut, and it's a very seminal work of African American literature that has like stories covering themes of like hoodoo and voodoo and stuff like that. And actually, and how did I not know this? There's a silent film adaptation in 1926, written and directed by Oscar Micheaux, and I love Oscar Micheaux. I don't know if it's available to watch anywhere, but I gotta look into that. But anyway, back to Eve's Bayou. It's more than anything, it's an insightful exploration of karma and cycles in human relationships. It's a coming of age story where our protagonist learns the hard way that life is not so black and white. And even with complications, uh, to be grateful for the familial love that you already have. And Eve's Bayou is available to watch for free on Amazon Prime, Tubi, and Pluto with ads. And it's also on Blu-ray through Criterion. And it's a really nice Blu-ray. The one rented it, and the color transfer is gorgeous. Next up is The Faculty from 1998, directed by Robert Rodriguez, screenplay by Kevin Williamson of Scream, who wrote the screenplay to Scream. So, 6 students at Harrington High School find out that the faculty at their school is made up of aliens with the goal of snatching up their bodies. Not only is this a fun teen horror movie, but it's also surprisingly thought-provoking. I like to view this movie as an allegory about how screwed up the education is. And when the aliens possess the students' bodies, the students become robotically civilized and hyperachieving in a way that is inauthentic to who they really are. And it's got an amazing cast. Elijah Wood, Josh Hartnett, Clea Duvall, Jordana Brewster, Selma Hayek's the nurse, Jon Stewart's one of the teachers, and yeah, this this cast just Piper Laurie's in it, and Christopher McDonald shows up, and Jon Stewart. As I said, I already said Jon Stewart. Sorry. There's someone else is in it. I believe I forget their name. Oh, Famke Janssen. And Bebe Neuwirth is the principal. Oh, and Usher. Usher's in it. Yeah. As I said, this screenplay was written by Kevin Williamson, who wrote Scream. I love the first 2 Scream films, particularly the first Scream, and I actually think The Faculty has more original and thought-provoking societal cultural commentary than Scream does. In the review section on IMDb, somebody wrote, "It's The Breakfast Club meets The Thing," and then someone else wrote, like, because Elijah Wood's in it, "Frodo really slayed." And then there are rumors about this being remade. If that is the case, Robert Rodriguez better get his buddy Eli Roth to help out somehow, because with what he did with Thanksgiving, I have trust in Eli Roth with making a great teen horror movie. The Faculty is currently available to watch for free on Pluto TV, and it is on DVD and Blu-ray. What can I say? This movie rules. And it just recently celebrated its 25th anniversary. Like a couple days ago, actually. It was a December release back then, believe it or not. Next up is Gabbeh. Gabbeh, it's spelled like Gabbeh, from 1996. Directed by Mohsen Malkembov. It's an Iranian film. So, when an elderly couple cleans their Gabbeh rug, which it's type of Persian rug, a beautiful, mysterious young woman appears, and she shares with them the story of her life. And this woman originated from the clan whose history is illustrated as like a fairy tale story within the rug. And this story is one of romantic longing. Not only does the girl have hopes to marry the man who she loves, but her uncle also searches for a woman to marry. It's surrealistically transportive. The colors are literally out of this world. It's one of those films where the imagery alone just grabs you in. Two sentences from this film perfectly sum up what the experience watching this is. Life is color, love is color. Sometimes you don't need words to describe the beauty of film or even life in general. Just images. Thinking in pictures, as Temple Grandin says. Overall, this movie just feels like an enchanting dream. You can rent Gattaca on YouTube and Apple TV for a couple dollars. I don't know if it was available on the Arrow streamer. That's how I watched it. I'm not sure about its physical media availability, but however way you watch it, it's only a little bit over 70 minutes. It's short, sweet, to the point, and does not at all overstay its welcome. Uh, I did watch it on the Arrow streamer when I had it, but I don't have Arrow streamer anymore. My subscription thing ended, and now I have Criterion channel. But this would make Gabby would make a great Criterion release. Criterion, if you're listening, or even Arrow, put this out on Blu-ray. Anyway, you're in for a visual feast. Stylistic speaking, I think this would make a great double feature with The Color of Pomegranates, especially since both are very short. Anyway, so that was Gabbé. Next up is Minnie and Moskowitz from 1971, written and directed by John Cassavetes. So, a museum curator named Minnie Moore, played by Jenna Rowlands, who was the wife of John Cassavetes before he died. I think at the age of 59, which is so sad. So she's in an abusive relationship with a man named Jim, who happens to already be married. And when their relationship is on the thinnest of ice and the rockiest of rocks, Minnie does not see the point of romance anymore. Meanwhile, Seymour Moskowitz, the other titular character, played by Seymour Cassel, is a peculiarly outlandish parking attendant fresh from New York to LA. The following day, Minnie has an arranged date with a disgruntled and nasty widowed man named Zelmo. And Minnie and Zelmo have a harsh confrontation in the parking lot where Seymour works, so then Seymour steps in and beats up Zelmo to save Minnie. And Seymour asks Minnie if he can take her home, but Minnie denies. Even so, Seymour continues to chase her down with his truck. Then romance begins. Cassavetes does a really good job here with balancing sweetness and dark deadpan humor. I love how strong-willed and independent the character of Minnie is. And I think that's what ultimately draws Seymour to Minnie. And the story also gets intensely raw. Seymour and Minnie have personal and mental health obstacles to work through. And it's one of those movies that make you believe in love, even if we're all a little messed up in some way. And Minnie and Moskowitz is available to watch for free on YouTube, and it's on DVD. And I would love to see this get a Criterion release. Criterion, if you're listening, put this out. What else can I say? This movie is adorable. Next up is Panda and the Magic Serpent from 1958, directed by Taiji Yabushita. This movie has a couple different titles. It's also known as The White Snake Enchantress and The Tale of the White Serpent. This was actually the first color anime feature film, as well as the first theatrical film entry from Toei Animation, the studio behind One Piece. And speaking of which, here's Chopper right here. So it's based on the Chinese fairy tale legend of the White Serpent. Our hero Xujian, that's spelled like Xuxian, had a pet white snake, but he was ordered by his parents to let her go. There is a time jump to years later where the snake has metamorphizes into a gorgeous regal princess named Bai Niang. Xujian and Bai Niang are reunited. However, Fahai has the false conviction that Bai Niang is an evil spirit, so he tries to keep the two apart. Xujian has two panda buddies, Panda and Mimi. Well, one of them is actually Red Panda, and red pandas aren't actually pandas, but rather raccoons. So these two critters search for Xujian. This movie is adorable, adventurous, and romantic. The animation is beautiful, especially for the time period. Panda and the Magic Serpent, aka the White Snake Enchantress, aka the Tale of the White Serpent, is available to watch for Tubi for free, and you can rent it for $1.99 on Amazon Prime. Somebody put this out on Blu-ray. And let's talk about another toy animation film, Taro the Dragon Boy from 1979, directed by Kurio Uruyama. This is based off of a novel by the same title by Miyoko Matsutani. That novel was inspired by a Japanese folktale. So Taro is a young boy who lives on a mountain. He's a bit idle and a nerd, eating and sleeping on the mountain. And Taro also loves to play with animals. Taro gets a call to adventure when a Tengu approaches him and offers a potion that provides him with the strength of approximately 100 men. However, these powers are only available in use when he uses them to assist others rather than just himself. Each day, Taro becomes more benevolent as an individual. Taro then meets a young girl who is talented at playing the flute. From there, Taro and Aya help the villagers gather wood. Then Taro is soon informed by his grandmother that a spell turned his mother into a dragon. He embarks on a quest to rescue her. This is another beautiful hero's journey with the more dynamic and complex characters than I expected. And yeah, Taro the Dragon Boy is available to watch on YouTube. Both Panda and the Magic Serpent, or whatever you want to call it, because it has multiple titles, and Taro the Dragon Boy are great films, early anime films to show your kids. And then finally, talking about The Wonder Boys from 2000, directed by Curtis Hanson, screenplay by Steve Kloves, based on the novel by Michael Chabon, who won the Pulitzer Prize for Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay. And I've read the novel of The Wonder Boys, and this is a very good and faithful adaptation. So Grady Tripp, played by Michael Douglas, is an author and English professor striving with difficulty to complete his novel. He's undergoing a rather messy third divorce. His lover, Sarah Gaskell, played by Frances McDormand, who happens to be the school chancellor, is pregnant with his child, but she's married to the English department head, Walter, obviously Grady's boss, supervisor, and his editor, Terry Crabtree, is played by Robert Downey Jr., who's and you can imagine that Grady is feeling the pressure from him. And so Grady procrastinates by smoking pot. And then in Grady's class, there's James Lear, played by Tobey Maguire. And there's Hannah Green, played by Katie Holmes. These two are both very talented writers, and Hannah has a room that she rents in Mr. Tripp's place, and she has sort of an unrequited crush on him. And James has an odd fascination with Hollywood suicides. Like, he knows, like, how, like, so many people in old Hollywood, the golden age of Hollywood, committed suicide. And he has some mental health issues himself. And things get really wacky from here. The stakes in this movie are oddly nerve-wracking, yet it also manages to be tender-hearted. That's really hard to pull off tonally, especially with the dark scenarios that are presented, which I don't want to reveal. And that's a testament to Steve Kloves' witty and intelligent screenplay and Curtis Hanson's tasteful direction. The entire ensemble here is wonderful. I love Michael Douglas. One of my favorite performances of him is in here. And I also love him in Falling Down, but this is very close. And also, of course, Fatal Attraction. Frances McDormand is excellent as always. And Robert Downey Jr. is so totally nails his role as the editor. Like I love the way he's like, dude, you got to get this done. I love that aspect. You know, the way he presents that aspect of the character, who has much more layers to him than that, is really, really great. And Tobey Maguire is amazing here. This is one of my favorite. Next, of course, I love him as Spider-Man. This is besides Spider-Man, probably my favorite performance of his. And the This was nominated for 3 Oscars: Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Film Editing, and Best Original Song, Things Have Changed by Bob Dylan, which it actually won. And if they did 10 nominees for Best Picture back then, I think it could have made the lineup. I really could. And it actually won Best Adapted Screenplay at the Critics' Choice, and it won the Scripter. And, you know, Curtis Hanson has such an eclectic filmography with this, LA Confidential, The River Wild, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, and Bedroom Window, all really great, good movies. And, yeah, The Wonder Boys, I watched it on a Blu-ray I rented. I think it might be on Paramount Plus because it says Showtime on Google. Let me just double check. Oh, no, it's no longer. You can rent it on Amazon Prime and like Google Play for a couple of dollars, but um uh or you can rent it from your library. So that's my my list of first time. Those are the first time watches I want to shout out, and then there are even more that I didn't. There are a couple more I didn't even mention in here. Some I've already mentioned in previous videos, and some I haven't. So I'm gonna go from the bottom up to of like the awards I want to give to these my first time watches of fall and winter 2023. For best stunts, and this is also my winner for best original score, and that is a movie I literally just watched last night and was outstanding, John Woo's A Better Tomorrow. And I don't know who did the stunt choreography, but the score was done by Joseph Koo. That this came out in '86, and it has Chow Yun Fat, T. Lung, Leslie Chung, Emily Chu. Screenplay by Chong Hing Kei and Ling Suk Hwa. And I'm just gonna read the back case here. The original Hong Kong gangster epic from John Woo, director of Hard Boiled, Face Off, and Mission Impossible 2. A Better Tomorrow was the film that started it all, full of John Woo's now classic trademarks of jaw-dropping style, heart-stopping action, and gunfire mayhem that must have been seen to be believed. Chow Yun Fat stars in the epic story of suave gangsters and renegade cops who discover that in a world bound by honor, revenge comes at the speed of a bullet. Written and directed by John Woo, this is the breakthrough film that made international superstars of both Woo and Chow Yun Fat, and single-handedly changed the look of action movies forever. And it's not just being a great action movie, it's also a pretty emotional and kind of pretty touching story about brothers. And I don't want to get too much into the plot because I don't want to make this video any longer than it's already has. For editing, I'm actually giving it to a Christmas movie, and that's Deadly Games from 1989. Editing done by the editor is Christine Pantsu. For best sound, I'm giving it to Cure from 1997. For best score, as I said, Better Tomorrow. Best makeup and hair, it's just for shits and gigs, Frankenhooker, 1990. It was my winner for makeup, for my horror awards that I did a few months ago. Best costumes, Antonia's Line, 1995. Costumes by Janny Tamine. She She did the costumes. I mentioned Antonia's line in my summer discoveries video. For best production design, I'm giving it to Ben Van Os and Jan Rolfs for their production design on The Cook, the Thief, His Wife and Her Lover from 1989. For best cinematography, I'm giving it to Gabe. 1996 cinematography by Mamad Kalari. Best supporting actress. This is a bit of a cheat because it's two actresses. It's a tie for two actresses, but they're both in the same movie. And that's Debbie. You know what? Screw it. I'm just gonna give it to. I love Diane Carroll in Eve's Bayou, and I love Debbie Morgan in Eve's Bayou. But I'm just gonna give the slight edge to Debbie Morgan, just because I love the way she portrays the mentorship aspect of her character. Yeah, Debbie Morgan for Eve's Bayou, 1997. And then for supporting actor, this is for a film I didn't touch upon, but this is an actor who is hit or miss for me. Like, sometimes I think he goes too far, but like the way he is used in this film and the way his performance in this movie is so vulnerable and so and understated, and that's Giovanni Ribisi for The Gift in 2000. He is so good in that movie. I was so surprised by how taken I was by that performance. The way he like had to go toe to toe with Cate Blanchett. Really, really fantastic performance. For best adapted screenplay, I'm giving it to Stephen Kloves for The Wonder Boys. Best original screenplay, I'm doing it. I'm giving it to Kevin Williamson for The Faculty, 1998. That's right. For best lead actress, I'm giving it to Joan Leslie for Repeat Performance from 1947. Great New Year's movie, by the way. For best lead actor, I'm giving it to Graham Greene for Clear Cut from 1991. And I didn't make this a cat. I didn't write it down, but if I were to give best animated film, it's a really tough call between Panda and the Magic Serpent and Taro and the Dragon Boy. I don't but if I were to write that down, I would do that, but I didn't write it down on here. For best acting ensemble, I'm giving it to the cast of Whit Stillman's Metropolitan from 1990. For best director, I'm giving it to The Devils. Ken Russell for The Devils, 1971. And then best picture, screw it. It may not be as it may not be, it's a lighter watch, but I don't care. I'm gonna give it to Minnie and Moskowitz from 1971, directed by John Cassavetes. There you go. That's my that will do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to see more of my my videos, click the like button and subscribe. You can also check out my poetry on my Positive Poems Instagram page, and I'm on Letterboxd and Twitter, or X. Well, just call Twitter. Nobody calls it X. Yes, thanks for watching. Goodbye for now. Have a happy and healthy new year. Happy 2024.